We're holding Sifid Beis, yeah? The Chayes, the Kafana is Mevayer, the Friedrich Rebbe's beer in the Friedrich Rebbe's beer, was Chassidus sagt in the Geta Meidani. The Meidani is the Ida which comes from the Etzem HaNeshama. The fact that the Pashas Advarim is Meidani, was sagt Dank. But the Friedrich Rebbe is that is the Kesher Telekus. Meidani expresses a certain form of Kesher Telekus, which this Kesher Telekus that a Yid has, nothing could weaken or nothing could be pagan this Kesher. And this Indian that there's every other mitzvah, all madrigas of the neshama, so there could be a davar which is machlish, and then there's certain time that you need in order for this kesher to be meir. Let's say the kesher of chinas neshama, which is the kesher of Chabad, that a yid's is hasagas alakus, so that person is that from his beinin zayin. You have certain matzav, a person can be metame chinas Chabad shebenafshe. But there says in Tanya, Truchach can be metame chinas Chabad, and then he's not a keli for hasagas alakus. There's every pchina of kesher with halakus that a yid has, misad nishmasim, misad dig of nefesh ruach neshama chaya. So say the each darga has a certain agbala, and he also connects the lakus according to the tzir of that darga. Since you're not connecting to the your every darga of the neshama, nefesh ruach neshama chaya has a certain tzir, and it's connected to lakus. The lakus is connected to that tzir. That's the Chabad of the neshama. So in vas faraif and farbinz the Chabad of the neshama to the Eibishter through pchinas the way the Eibishter is mislavish and pchinas chachma. The way the Eibush is beyond Chachma, so that the Pchinas Chabad is not connected to that Nekuda. So every darga outside of Atzmos has a certain Agbala, and basically in order, and there's certain things which could be a stira to that Kesher. You can't say that a Yid wakes up in the morning, mitzad the Kesher, Refesh Ruach Neshama Chaya, a Yid that was Nitma, or Kayetzu Bezeh, so he's not a Keli at that time of the morning for Pchinas Chabad, or other Pchinas in his Nefesh. He has to do tshuva first, that a person could be menutik from this Kesher Talikus. The fact that any Yid in Vasfar Ma'amid the Masav is on Zayin on Achana, you just woke up, you're still tummy, you're still what made the Ani, what does it represent? It represents that Nekuda in a Yid which nothing could be machlish that Nekuda Sekesher. That's only Pchinas Chidush Nefesh. Chidush Nefesh is the Yid Be'etzem Husay is one with Atzmos and Hus. So first of all, we say that it's one, so it's not shaykh to say, derech dugmi, we say a father and a avu ben, a kesher between a chvez, a oiv and a ov regularly. So there has to be things in order for the kesher to stay as after sign. So there has to be a dibur between the oiv and the ov. The ov has to behave a certain way. Mashik and avu ben, there's nothing that could be machlish the kesher of avu ben. Since it's a kesher atzmi, nothing could weaken it. Al derech zeh, pchinas yichide is the fact that the neshama be'etzem uhose is one with atzmos. So on that, the Rebbe says more. Atzmos azam in Sartzach, which nothing could be a stira to Atzmos. Even the shverst, the Indian achi chomer, so it can be a stira to Atzmos. They say an avera. An avera is the Eibusha said that it's never. It says loy signev, but the gneva can't be a stira to him. He chose that gneva should be opposite him, but the gneva can't be something which should detach a yid from the Eibusha. It's hepech ratz alien, but only the Gav Atzmos you could say that there's nothing that could be a stira to Atzmos. So Melon said this Nekuda that the Meidani expresses that regardless of what matzav a Yid is, Betuma, even before Netilas Yadayim, that he's able to have a direct shaykhas to Lukus, Meidani Lefanach is able to, his ani is Meida, and this, the fact that it's an atzir of a thank you, that's not the Mahus. The Mahus is that he's connected to the Eibishter, even though he's still Tachas Tumah without any achanis, that's Misad the Dargi V'chida. Which that's the primis of Mahus of a Yid, and he's connected to the Eibusher. The Eibusher is beyond any tzir, beyond any agbolas, and there's not trying to say they need to be in a certain, there's no tunaim in order for that kesher to be. There's no inyanim of tzir which is needed in order for this kesher to be v'yizdav design. You don't need zmanim, you don't need the kesher mitzad atzma is beyond any agbolas, and it exists always with the same taken. Avad in order for it to be pale on the entire tzir kaveh of the person, so he has to be mezach his meach and his leib. But the etzem kesher is not dependent and not limited according to any zman and any matzav, and nothing can be paid of that. So that's the aschol sayim. That's the. It's not stam aschol sayim. That's the nekuda sa'etzem of a yid. That's the core of a yid. That's pchinas eichid. Now the later sifim is, we're not dealing with the nekuda sa'etzem itself, which that's the beard of chassidus and Meidani. How Meidani expresses the nekuda sa'echid of a yid. Now we're discussing how the mitzpshas a yid is shas herzach beim the nekuda sa'echid. So also the inyanim of nefesh ruach neshama chaya is beifan acher. That's what we're discussing now. The mitzad is galus of yechida of Torah, which brings out to the fact that he's one with the Eibusher's etzem. So the beard of chassidus is discussed is this being mevayer pchinas sa'echid. Now once pchinas sa'echid is meir begoli, it also changes the attitude that a yid has towards the other Pirushim. It's not Shelo, the Pirushim of Pshat Drush and Seid. It gives a different chayis in those pirushim itself. So what's the first pirush is, api pshat, mezak ne'ebish na'adayin amalept. So without B'chinas Yechidah, the Rebbe says, Chassidus gives the chayis and the adgosh of the shmasi. Without B'chinas Yechidah, the nusach we say Medani is that a Yid thanks the Eibishter. We're thanking the Eibishter for the fact that we're alive. But the shayla is if you're thanking the fact that you're alive, why do we say Shezar to be Nishmasi, which that gosh is that he gave you back the neshama of a Yid? The Nekud is that he's alive. What's that from Zagin Nishmasi? Asher Shezar to be Neshama, that I'm a Metzias Chai. Why isn't it why we madgish Nishmasi? So that's the mitzvah. The hergish hayichidim, mitzvah this galas achsidus. A yid could have the hergish that outside of a lukus, it's not a mitzias b'chlal. That chayim without a lukus, without davik being davik to the Eibishter, is not that without being davik to the Eibishter, the life is not worth living. It's too the loss is greater than the gain. Or kayetzu b'zeh. Chassidus gives the hergish that chayim without a lukus is not a mitzias of chayim. That's the Rebbe. That's dafka mitzad hergish hayichidim. Mitzad hergish hayichidim, even when it comes to there's the yichid itself, and then there is hayichida has a hashpa, has an impact. Not meretish is vegan the shaykhs that yichida has. We're dealing now when a person's thinking, what is his attitude towards his life? He's eating and drinking. What's his attitude towards living a gashmistic life? B'chinas yichuda gufa is the fact that the neshama is one with the Eibishter. There is no mitzias of chayim yet. There's no tzir of chayim. Mitzad the sherish of B'chinas Yechidah itself. Now we're saying mitzad ha'aras Yechidah. We're dealing now with the nekudah of a yid thanking the fact that the yid's alive. He's a mitzias neshama guf. He's alive in ilam hazeh. Left in ilam hazeh. Now, what type of attitude does he have towards his life? So mitzad the fact that a yid's meir b'B'chinas Yechidah. So mitzad dem inyan, he has a different tfisa of what life is. And this hergish that stama zei leben, essen, drinking, enjoying life, or other ideals and human qualities that life could have, the fact that they're nothing, that life is that there's only mitzvahs of chaim when it's davik talukos, that's only mitzvah hergish hayichida. That's the Rebbe. We're holding we have a hergish zeh. Hergish this nekuda I don't know if it was mandish last, and this nekuda is negeh lahadgish. There's 2 points here. There's one if and they're being brought before the dugma of a ben melech that mishtaltem aran in a refes bakar. So I'm saying is you could have one eifin. The diuk over here is that you have one eifin that someone despises something because there's you say someone is having a chaves a leben full mitzaris. There's yisurim. So Mele he says lomeli chaim. So with all the azeful tzaris, he's not interested in his memayis nazal leben. So there he's not memayis in the nekudas achayis. It's not that his life has no value. It's because there's so many, life is a valuable thing, but because there's so many negative things involved in his life, he has chtzaris, so he's mevater on the little good, or sometimes the ribi ra, the ribi tzaris, is misgaber over the miyotay that there is. That's not what that could be non-hasem. You have many stam people like that or a yid could even their hair, that a lukus is the greste zach, the tayest zach, the tsar that he has from the fact that he's not davuk to lukus is going to override the hergesh ataining which there is in chayis. So there is a hergesh ataining in being alive. There's a certain taining, and there's this kayla kol anoshvel, the etzem taining of being alive, being a living being. But he could have someone that the tsar that he can't learn, that he can't be mekayim mitzvahs, as that tifet tsar, that tsar overrides his anah for life. But nish does that's lav dachim satchines eichida. That you could have in many finally guys. The Rebbe's adgosh over here is that mitzad the hergesh eichida, the chayim without a lukus is not a mitzias of chayim. Not that it's a mitzias, but the tsar and the tsar of being menutek from a lukus is mizgaber over the type that existed. This in guf is kinzachnisht. Life without a lukus, this is not a mitzias to begin with. Not that it's a mitzias, but the tsar and the tsaris override that. That in guf is nishki mitzias. That's and azasert hergish that chayilam hazim mitzad atzam is garnished. That's dafka mitzad tfunas eichid. So nefesh uchan neshama chaya is not shaychas azam mitzad hergish. That's the when the Rebbe brings the chayim of ben melech. It's not that he's going to be memayis b'chayim elu of stam eating and drinking because he's going to have so much pain that he's not connected to Aviv Melech. By him, life means being connected to his father. Stam azay leben essen and drinking without that's not a mitzvah. That's not considered life for him. It's heisish leben b'chlal. That's the mashal that Rebbe is bringing. We don't have such a tzir in someone that you have people that are memayis b'chayim because their life is difficult. So there's difficulties in their life. Not that their very form of life teignish. This form of life is a mitzvah, but the difficulties overrides the chiyuv that's there. Here we're saying this mitzvah is garnished, a different type of inyan. Yeah, it's out there. Just it's not mamish the same exact thing, but the Rebbe says in time in tzaddik verale and tzaddik v'toivle. that by tzaddik or tzaddik she'eni gomer, tzaddik gomer. That by tzaddik verali there's rab, but it's bottled to the teif. And at tzaddik v'teivler, at tzaddik gomer, there's no teif klal. So the Rebbe says it was, there's no ra klal. That's what's tzaddik she'eni gomer. That his mius to sitra achra. It's very hard to be in beichin with both tzaddikim have avos Hashem, and they have mius in Elam Hazeh. But the Rebbe says tzaddik she'eni gomer, tzaddik verali, the mius is not betachlis. Mashing the tzaddik verale, the tzaddik v'toivle, tzaddik gomer is that his mius in Elam Hazeh is betachlis. What's the tzaddik verale is the ra is there, but it's bottled to the teif. If it's murgish that he has enjoyment towards Elam Hazeh, then it's not bottled, then it's there. The tzaddik that the ra, his cheshik in Welt, is bottled, that he's not, it's bottled, b'shishim, b'chiz b'elef, b'rvavad, Alter Rebbe says. So it's not, you can't, there's no, it's not like he has a certain, he feels like a shmak to Elam Hazeh. So what's the difference between tzaddik verali, tzaddik, and tzaddik gomer, tzaddik she'eni gomer? So what, there's a mashal, there's a alter mashal that's brought, that you have let's say someone has you bring him a shtickle meichel that was made with the marang mixed in this cake. It's a very geschmack dish, but it was mixed with blood of Yidden. Okay, so every person, I mean, a Yid is going to be memais in such a food. The minute he hears that there was this food was done with some ingredient, with some with the blood from a Yidden, he's not going to be able to. He's going to despise this meichel. But why is it not because this meichel hot? Lepay is going to despise it. But why is he going to despise it? Be'etzem mitzad atzma, it's a good azach. It's a geschmack meichel. But the ra that's there overrides the good that's in this food. The fact that it was mixed with Yisurim by Yidden, so you despise this food lepayel. But you despise not because be'etzem it's nothing, because the negativity that's there overpowers and overrides the good quality that it would have theoretically had. But then you have someone that chatchila cake doesn't mean anything to him. It's not that there's bad here. It's chatchila not a mitzias. The chatchila, the only mitzias, the only thing that he cares about is other types of things. Not that the tzaddik verali Elam Hazeh mitzvah. He's a mitzias of the world. He's a neshama beguf. Mitzad the neshama beguf. Elam Hazeh is a mitzias. Life is a mitzias. Sachakol by a tzaddik verali, his avos Hashem is so strong that if this mitzias, eating tavis heter, let's say, is menatik him from Elokus, so his avos Hashem is at kadei kach that anything which is menatik from him from Elokus, he can't stand it. He despises it. But the reason why he despises it is not because Elam Hazeh is be'etzim garnished. Elam Hazeh is hazach. But since being involved in Elam Hazeh without a kavanah Shem Shemaim is menatik you from the Eibush there, and he has a meridik avos Hashem, so the netik from Elokus overrides the good that exists within the chefs of Elam Hazeh. So Lepel Mamash he's most in the mitzvahs of Elam, because anything which is menatik from Ratzon Eli, he's memais in it. But he's memais in it because this thing detaches him from Ratzon Eli, not because this thing be'etzim is garnished. By tzaddik gomer lechatchila, the only mitzvahs is dveikas telekus. Anything which is not a mitzvah is chatchila kemitzvahs. It's not that it's something, and the fact that this thing is menatik of the Eibush, therefore it's not. Lechatchila by tzaddik gomer, the only mitzvah, the only value is dveikas to the Eibush. Anything which is not that. So there's what we're speaking over here also. The hergish that you could have, someone could have as Amisars after Elam Hazeh should be. He should be memayis in Elam Hazeh. That he should only be machshav life of a yid because the Elam Hazeh is there's chisreinis in living a life outside of Elokus. Mitzad avos Hashem, so the netik from Elokus brings that tzar. That's ladaf mitzad hergish eichida. The root of hergish eichida is the hergish that he's thanking for life. What's life nishmasi? What's life a yid's life? Not that the Elam Hazeh mitzad atzmi is l'chatchila not a mitzvah. That's as that starts out. That's come from hergish eichida. The fact that before anything, when he's thanking the Eibush for life, so now we're dealing before cheshbonus of if it's a mitzias, if the very fact that your life is a mitzias, so now we're thanking the Eibush for being alive, not for the quality of life that you have, not for dveikas telekus. That's a mitzias of chaim. For pratim, that's later brachas, but the first bracha be'elakai neshama of meida'ani is that's a meidah for life. So if mitzad the other dargis that be'etzem Elam Hazeh is a mitzias. So is a gather from Lebanon. But then there could be other nekudis which are geirim that you despise it. So mitzad them vatum nicht gesagt sagen nishmasi. Mas inke mitzad hergish eichida. So the etzem mitzias is nothing. That's definitely. So this hergish comes after mitzad eichida. Wie sagt das? Bei hergish ze ba mitzad gila eichida dafke. For us, because mitzad dalet b'chinas nefesh shuch neshama chaya mikivan. There says here dagas the gevart. It's like this. Mitzad b'chinas nefesh shuch neshama chaya mikivan shem mitzuyarim him be'ezet tziyur. Meichin midas chulu, hari yesh b'hem inyan la'atzmam, v'inyan ha'lukus shebehem hu k'moi oy dover. U'b'meila yesh b'hem is a yachas and esin asmokim edakas ha'kalpanim l'chayim b'lisha shemei v'rei ha'lukus. Mashigim b'chinas ha'yichida shekol inyonu hu mashim yichedes b'asim musi yizbarech, im b'shum esin asmokim b'shum inin zolas yizbarech. That does have from this, and you say when you get the never shuch neshama chayim, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya l'mashal, that even clearly they were speaking Meich and Midas Chulu, but even clearly, let's say Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chaya is the Keches Prima of the Neshama, let's say. Also includes Keches Makifim, but let's just for the beer here, so the Keches Primim. So the Keches Primim is the Chabad of the Nefesh Elokis. Avanas Vasagas Elokis, Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem. So Azevot Kvan Asvara that Meichin and Midas the Nefesh Elokis, but there's one set of Keches, a neutral Metzias of Seichel and Midas. The Nefesh Elokis uses these Seichel and Midas for the sake of Avanas Vasagas Elokis. And the Rosh Bahamas uses the Seichel and Midas for type of Selam Hazeh and to be find tachbulas of how to get to Selam Hazeh. If the pshat would be that by the Nefesh Elokis, then the Rebbe wouldn't say that in al kushvem ukamay aydavar. If the word is that mitzat pchinas meichin u'midas and Nefesh Elokis, there's literally an inyan la'asvam. It's a gather of meichin u'midas. Sachakol, what is it's the same gather of keres Nefesh Bahamas. Nefesh Bahamas has seichel. Nefesh Elokis also has seichel. What seichel? Seichel is seichel. Sachakol, the Nefesh Bahamas says what they use their seichel for. The Nefesh Elokis uses the seichel for asagas Elokis. Nefesh Bahamas uses the seichel for tachbulas ne'elam hazeh. Then it's not kamay aydavar. Then in al kushvem hu aydavar mamish. If this Chabad of Nefesh Elokis is literally a Mitzvah Chacham Bin Adas, the same quality of Chacham Bin Adas as Nefesh Bahamas, the only chilek is what it's used for. So then, what's the Chabad of the Nefesh Elokis is Chabad Seichel. So the fact that it's the whole Keshet Elokis is a davar neisa, then it'd be literally a davar neisa. And then the what Vashan Api Pashtus that if the Havana would be that the Keich HaChacham of the Nefesh Elokis is literally a regular Keich HaChacham, exactly the same Keich HaChacham as Nefesh Bahamas, or the levushim of the Nefesh Elokis was Oisius. Sachakol here it's Oisius, the same nature of letters. It's a levush for a teichen. Here it's in Kedusha and here it's in Klippa. So then you can't say that the Gabi Seichel of Nefesh Elokis, you can't say that Seichel of Welt is garnished. How can it be garnished? If Seichel is a Metzias, Seichel is a Metzias. So the Seichel in this form, the Seichel in that form. You can't say that the Etzem Metzias is nothing. The Rebbe is saying here that then it would be, you don't have to say B'dakus the Dakus, there's a Yachas. Then literally, if the Keich HaChacham of Nefesh Elokis was a classic, regular Keich HaChacham, Sachakol, the fact, and this Chacham is used for the sake of the Eibishter, then it's Chacham, it's Mehusa Seichel. Seichel, there's Seichel in Welt too. You can't say there's Chabad in Welt. You can't just say it's garnished. You could say that it's a very low quality, you could be Sheilit for other, you can't say that the Etzem Metzias is garnished. The Rebbe is saying here in Anderzach, the MS is that the Keich HaSeichel of Nefesh Elokis is a different mohus of a keich than Nefesh Bahamas. Its mohus is not seichel. Its mohus is connection to Elokus in a form of seichel. The Metzias, the Chabad, the Torah says that there's two sets of keiches. That the Nefesh Elokis has its own keiches, and the Nefesh Bahamas is not stam. Why not? Two nefashis. We'll give them each one separate keiches. B'mohus, the keich HaChacham of Nefesh Elokis is a different chachma. It's not a Metzias of chachma, and the Nefesh Elokis possesses it for the. This person possesses a baguette for his needs, and he has the same baguette for the other. The other one has his own baguette for his needs. It's a different nature of a beged b'chal. The keich HaChacham of Nefesh Elokis, its mohus is not seichel. Its mohus is being connected to the Eibishter in the form of seichel. His mohus is kesher to Elokus. It's kesher to Elokus the way it's expressed in Avanos Vasagas Elokus, in Meichin Elokus. Or there's a skashas Elokus the way it's expressed in Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. But the mohus is not Ava and Yira. It's not that emotion is the Metzias. And what is his emotion towards the Eibishter? Chabad and Meichin and Midas of Shalakis is a different mohus than Meichin and Midas of Bahamas. And that's why each nefesh has its own set of keiches, because it's a different mohus of keiches. This is Meichin, which the mohus of this Meichin is to be connected to the Eibishter. But the Rebbe says, this is an uftu. He says, that the whole, by the nefesh, even we're speaking about the nefesh, ruach, and neshama chaya of the nefesh Elokis, we're speaking about Meichin l'mashal of the nefesh Elokis. So Meichin and Vel, you can say that Seichel of Welt is not a Metzias. The Nefesh Elokis is also Seichel, but it's not Seichel. It's Kashas to Lekus in the form of Seichel. But Stam Seichel not as a form of connecting to the Eibishter. It's Kemetzias nish mitzad the Nefesh Elokis. Chach Seichel Ne'elam Hazeh is a different mohus legamri than Seichel with the Nefesh Elokis. There's Alderach, like the Rebbe says, the marshal with the Ben Melech, that by him the mohus of Chayim is being David of a Melech. If you take away that mohus, that is not considered life for him. The life of Stam as eating a drink is not considered life for him. So al derech zeh, if the mohus of Meichin of Nefesh Elokis was Meichin, so it's the same exact mohus. There's a musik of, there's a Metzias of Ashtant. The question is, what's your topic of Ashtant? But you can't say that if the topic is Klippes Elam Hazeh, is Stam Chachmes Elam Hazeh, then it's garnished. If it's Seichel, it's also Seichel. And Seichel is a Metzias. Seichel is a Metzias, Da is a Metzias, Dart is a Metzias. But they're saying that the Meichen of Shalakis also its whole mohus is kesher to the Eibishter. It's kesher to the Eibishter in the form of seichel. So Elam Hazeh, seichel alein on kesher to Shalakis doesn't exist. It's not a mitzias. Nefesh Shalakis is where it's Meir the emes that the only mitzias is the Eibishter. Shalakis is the only mitzias, and Welt is totally in Varavai, and the Welt mitzadatz is not a mitzias amitis, and that's the whole mitzias the Nefesh Shalakis. Even the Meichen of the Nefesh Shalakis is not a tfisa smokim literally to Welt, that it's a mitzias of seichel outside of Shalakis. The whole mitzias of the seichel is that it's another form of how the keshet Shalakis is mizbate. But the Rebbe is saying still, bedako, since Pchinas Chabad, let's say Pchinas Nefesh, is the skashis Shalakis the way it's mitztayer in the tzir of seichel, you can't say that seichel is garnished. Even though it's mahus is not seichel. It's mahus is skashis Shalakis being expressed in seichel. But Saf Kosav, you can't say that seichel, if seichel is nothing, so what's Pchinas Nefesh? What's Pchinas Neshama? If seichel is kein zach nicht, it has no yachas at all, it has no tfisa smokim at all, so what's the pshat of Lepel? There it is mitztayer in a tzir. And Lepel mitzat the tzir chitzoni, there's a tfisa smokim to the gather of seichel outside of Elokus. The Rebbe is saying is this lashon. He says, there is a tzir. Besides for the etzem mohus of keshet Elokus, it's the keshet Elokus the way it's mizbate in seichel. So there is some form of tzir. But kemen is saying that the tzir is garnished. If the tzir is garnished, so what's it being mitztayer? So what's seichel? Not in latzma means that the whole gather of seichel is seichel in Rav Shulkis. Since this darga is the way the kesher is mitztayer in that tzir, you can't say that tzir is nothing. If it's nothing, so what's a melubishin? The Chassidah says that in Chachma could be Meir the emes of Yichud Ilah, but in Bina not, because since Bina is Fashstand and Bina is that in it is Munach and the Seichel of the Mekabel. So if the Mekabel exists, if your Seichel Mekabel exists, so herstenish the Amita Seinin of Kula Kamik Alachshiv. Means if there's no Metzias outside of the alien, so there's no Bina, there's no Klei Mekabel. If the Bina means that the Indian is understood in a way that it's Misyashiv in the Klei Meichen of the Mekabel. It's munach in his das. So that means there has to be some type of value in his way, in his mahalach haseichel. If there's no value at all, there's no such an inyan of the mahalach haseichel of Ruven. So what's this? So there's no bina. There's no bina of Ruven. So it's the amitas of Yichudei Allah that kula kamik alachshiv kenish mer zen b'chinas bina. I'm saying al derech that Rebbe is saying here, even though the whole nikud of meichen nefesh l'kis is, it's this kesher to l'kus in such a tzir. But meret and Pchinas Chabad itself without the hergish of Yechida. So Pchinas Seichel and Nefesh Elokis itself, the etzem tzir of Seichel has some type of tfisa smoking. Sepsa inyan. If it's a garnished, is heipsach nishtan. Eipsan inyan, so bedakos the dakos, there's some tfisa smoking to the etzem inyan of Seichel. But it's a dakos the gabar. The Rebbe is not saying as a literally that it's it doesn't touch up, but it's not a basic. So where is it Meir that the only thing that exists is a lukus? There's no other nishtaken under inyan v'gavasaretz. The fact that a lukus is mitztayer, you say mashal natzilis, so it says that you have is malachim which also batot a lukus. In Elam Abri, it says that you have malachim that are batot a lukus. Rahom Mitzvah says Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. Yeah, there's not malach michol, which calling Yiras Avos Hashem is not shaychus to ava to anything which is outside of a lukus. Not only because b'mtzias there's no other subject in Elam Yitzir besides Lukus, but it's more. It's home Mitzias is Avos Hashem. It's not a Mitzias of Ava which is used towards the Eibush. Home Mitzias is Avos Hashem. But there, that's also not. It's Nefesh Elokis is even more. But the Eibush created different types of beings. The Eibush created a Mitzias of Avos Hashem. But what the Rebbe is saying here, is the Eibush created a Mitzias of Avos Hashem. But there, so there's a Mitzias of Ava. Ava is Ava. The Eibush created a mitzias of what is the Ava towards Avos Hashem. When you say in Atzilus that Iye v'chayei echad, Iye v'gamrei echad, what's the pshat over there? It's not Chabad and Atzilus is not hasagas elukus. It's elukus being mitztayer also in Seichel. The Nekud is elukus. The Nekud is that the Eibush is Shleimus Ein Sof. Mitzat Shleimus Ein Sof, he includes all milas, also Seichel, also midas. So there's no mitzias of Seichel outside of the fact that it's a prat and Shleimus Ein Sof. So if you speak about without the vart of dakos, the mitzvah the pasha saying yanim, there's no davar neisef outside of inyan aliki, because the whole vart of the seichel is that mitzvah the shlema saying sof is b'meila echad hachachma is echad seichel v'chachma. But still the Rebbe is saying since sof kol sof mitzvah the pchin of Chabad, with what is expressed Shleimus Ein Sof, that he also that Elokus is also in Seichel. So mitzad that darga the Elokus is mistarred in Seichel, you can't say that Seichel is nothing. So you're giving some type of chshivas, some type of smakim to the Metzias of Seichel. If there's any chshivas, so bedakas the dakas and through a sheder shtalshalos, there could be a mocker as if it's a Metzias from Seichel in the Mitzad Chabad and Atzilis, through a parsa, through a seder shtalshalos, with Vern Chabad and Vel. But mitzad the nekuda where there's mitzad the hergesh of hulav adi ve'in zolasi, without any tzir, so there's not, it can be mishtalshal from it even an Indian of Elam Hazard. There's nothing besides for him that there could be any sinas makom latos. Mitzad b'chinas Chabad, even though mitzad b'chinas Chabad itself the nefesh alakis in Yoni is mitzad the shleimus hanefesh. It also includes seichel. Mitzad the shleimus hakesher the nefesh alakis with the Eibishter. There's no, it doesn't have the limit that it has to be dafka in a form of chveis hecher. It's going to be in seichel, but mitzad that darga of b'chinas chachma, it's nirgash that there is a tzir of chachma, and mitzad that is fizas makim, but darkos the darkos that through a shtalshalos can zayin at fizas makim. Yesh bim eze yachas in fizas makim lechayim belisha shemei b'reilus. It's nicht den ganzen agefret. Means stamazay living life is not totally agefret, because the kreiches of the nefesh are also shaykhs to certain mitzvahs. So the mashegim b'chinas hayichidish kol in yanahu mashim yichades bas mitzvahs baruch. Its homohus is not the way it's mitzvah. In yana is atzmos. That's its homohus. It doesn't have a tzir. Yichida is not a certain inyan which connects to the Eibishter. Yichida is kol in yana is zayin davik to the Eibishter. Whatever the Eibishter is, that's its mohus. Its mohus is dvekas to the Eibishter. Not a tzir of what type of dvekas. It's a different type of inyan. Its homohus the chatchila is kesher telukus. So in Mela, there's no nisnas smokim to any ini which is not him, because there's no in it itself. There's no nekuda outside of tvekas telukus. So by saying there's different dargas in Chassidus. You have many dargas of einarech, or many dargas of when you say something is mushal from something else. You know, just use this mushal because it's a nice. I would say this mushal is interesting mushal that. Chassidus have the lashon that lifnei tzimtzum haya ein tzaf mal kol hamtzias, v'lei haya makim lamidas eilemis. So it's what's pshat? There was no space. It's not a physical light. The light filled up the whole room. There was no space for eilemis. First, there's no space for eilemis. Mitzad his pashas ein sof, the inyan of a mitzias outside of a lukus hatishkin is mufrach legam. It's mushlo such a. The Eibishter is ein sof. B'shas the ein sof of a lukus is meir begoli. So that tnua, that in Sof is Meir Begoli, there's no Nesinas Makim for a Metzias which is not him. Leia Makim means we're in a state of reality that the Musik of a Metzias can resign. It's Mufra. So there's different, what's the Pshat? There's a certain, even Mitzad Chveis Atzilis, you say Hulavadi Uvein Zolasi, and the Hergish of a Metzias is Mushlo. But to come to the Shlilas Metzias Elmas the way it is, Lifnei Tzimtzum. Lo Heya Makim Vidas Elmas. Maybe I just marshal. Is that bekant with the marshal? It's interesting this type of marshal, but different ifanim in saying that a certain thing is mufrach. So if someone's going to say that they saw migdal perech ba'aber, it's kenner zayin as a zach. It's mufrach legamri. But even though it's mufrach, we can explain why it's mufrach. Firstly, it can be mitzayir such a in. It can be mitzayir, the big building, and it's flying in the air. The pile, there's reasons why, for zaytika reasons, this thing can be. A migdal that the ear should pick up mitzad. The etzim Indian is you could be mitzayir such a in. So the etzim Indian theoretically could exist such a in. Varday could be mitzayir. Lepoil for technicalities it can't be because the kvedos of verschiedene Sachen. But someone's going to say that he saw circle and square together. So that it's not the pshat that there's a psazaitika reason. It can be circle and square. It can be size circle and size square. We cannot feel nicht mitzayir sein as am zach. It's not the pshat that there's such a phenomena, but lepoil for side reasons it can't be lepoil. The etzem musig is a musig mukshe. The rest of the zach, which this thing itself can't work, not because there's something else that negates it. There's other rules of nature that negate it. Or it's square, or it can be the same thing, and square and circle. You can't finish mitzayir zeh. But still, sedaving of asared, you're discussing. There is what to deal with. And you could explain why it's agafrekt. You say, Manavshach, this is this tzir and that's that tzir. So these you could explain the agafrekt kite of the inyan. A circle and a square, you could explain it. But if someone says that he saw nothing, Not that he didn't see anything. He saw nothing. So that's so shlaving of us reden dort. It's not the pshat that you're. It's not the pshat that it's there's nothing to discuss b'chlal. So that's a very. So the shayla is elamis. You say elamis is mufrich. You say elamis is mufrich because you can explain it's hepech emes. There's a certain form. There's a gather of elamis. There's a gather of a mitzias. Not the Eibishter. There's a table of shmayim ba'aretz. But then you can have rayis ve'echachas kenner zayin that the world is mitzias amitis. Because ebazei it's going to be a stira to the Eibishter being a mechuyev mitzias. If you say that the world exists mitzad itself, it will be different kashas. So you're saying that it's mufrich l'poel, but not because the etzem phenomena is something which can't be. There's a tfisa smokim to the etzem inyan of elamis. Technically speaking, there's different zaytika reasons why the pel mamish sahatzach nishleis. That you can even have achrat tzimtzum, lower dargis. There's what to deal with. There is and there's different dargis in the einarech, in the shlilas mitzias elamis, where there's a certain form of being of elamis, of mitzias outside of elikus, and there's mitzad verschiedene dargis that you're saying that mitzad vos mer seherzach the emes elikus. More you understand, more it's Meir there how the mitzias of a mitzias of something outside of elikus is mufrach. But living at Simsim is not. There's no such a phenomenon of a mitzias. So don't hurt the Eibishter. We don't have a tefisa in that type of. There it's Meir how the Eibishter is Ein Sof in the Mulay Muvan Amilam. It's at that Inyan. The concept of a mitzias doesn't exist. More than they say circle and square that it's not. It's mufrach. The chatchil is nishtah zam yisrael zach melchatchil. As Alder is saying over here also. Mitzad pchinas Chabad, the nefesh lekis. Even mitzad is ogefek legamri mitzias avilam hazir. But there's some yachas. There's some you're giving some validity to the mitzias avilam. This yachas could be in a very darkest kaifin. It's not a. This yachas could be that the fact that it's mufrich is because mitzad cheshbon it's mufrich. If it's mufrich mitzad cheshbon, it's not. That's not the shlil of yichida. If there's what to deal with, that means that mitzad itself. If there's what to discuss, that means that dvelt mitzad atzmei has a value. Elamai lepoil mamish, you say it can't be for different reasons. Here we're saying mitzad yichida, there's no concept outside of the Eibishter. Mitzad atzmos, there's no concept of anything besides for him himself. That's mitzad pchinas yichida. So mekenish reden wegen aleben, which is not nishmas. That's the ultimate of ein b'em chaim klal. And mitzad the lower darga where there is some tfisa smakim to mitzias. So the amitis in it to say that life means the life of a yid, b'shleimus in it you can't say that because there's some value to a reality outside of the Eibishter. Yeah, that's nisha zay pasha, but that's ba'ifin klali the nekudas hadov.
The level of mufrach applies to the nanancha also.
Yeah. The Rebbe is saying in a very darkest David, he says, the Rebbe is not saying that it's literally el-kus davar neisaf. Saf kol saf, there's some inyan in what the kesha is mizbata. So just to remind the word the Rebbe says in the Maimer B'yem Ashti Yosser that speaks of the toss of shituf is that a person is machshav gechav mazal is have bchira. The shadish for that is if someone's machshav any inyan besides for atzmos. I don't know if you remember such a. Yeah, this is a yeah, okay. Lass mal sehen, Sifit Gimel ein bisschen. Der Elam versteht den Minyan. I mean, this bei Yudam Chassidus, this, I'm just saying the Nekudas Hadover. Yeah, lass mal sehen, Sifit Gimel. Yeah, this is a starke Inyan with the Sifit base. We're not speaking about the Nekudas Yechida K'misha B'mkeima. That's the beer of Chidus itself. We're dealing with how Yechida affects a person when he's dealing with his life. So that's already mitzat pchinas Chabad. When you're within the realm of Chabad, so then you're davok telakus, avanas telakus. But Chabad's not going to. When you're dealing with your life, Chabad won't give you the hergish that life without telakus is garnished. When you're within that element, you're within that element. That's something else. But since mitzad that darga, it's not mushlo betachlis. So when you're in a tzir where Chayelim has his tefes makim, Chabad won't give you the hergish that Chayelim has is garnished. Mashik in Yechida, that the Gaben Yena Hergesh, even when you're in a state of Mitzias. That's the good. Let me again a bisschen weiter. Let's try and trachten in them. Oh, Kamesh Bechel
You don't say from that to the fact that the Yechida is being...
No, Yechida itself is no mohos outside of Kesher Ta'atzmos. There is no tzir in Yechida. That's the difference between Yechida and all, even Dargis and Geloyim and Lamayla. And saying the Shama V'Yid is higher than Chveis Erin Seif. Erin Seif, its Kesher Ta'alukas is also a certain function. Erin Yoni is to express the Eibish's Blig Vol, let's say. So it's expressing the Eibish's Blig Vol, not something else. The Etzem Neshama has no tzir. In Yoni is being one with the Eibishter. The Eibishter has no tzir. It's whatever. What is it? Whatever the Eibishter wants it to be. That's or whatever the Eibishter is. That's what its mohus is. Being dedicated to Him, without any tzir. If the Eibishter, it's not about dedicated either. If the Eibishter is not about dedicated, it's also a word that was chadash. But the Nekud is the Rebbe's lashon is Kol in Yoni Him Hashim Yuchad is Batzmos. It's one with the Eibishter, so it has no tzir. Or you can't say Kol in Yoni is Yichud with the Eibishter. In Yoni is being megadah the Nekudas Agili of the Eibishter. The Neshama is not, in Yoni is not being expressing a certain Tchin in Holocaust. It has no it doesn't have its own independent, Gestalt.
The effect that it has on the Nefesh, right? Here we're talking about
So when Satchinas Yechida, the Yida has the Hergesh, that besides the Eibishter, nothing exists. From the Yechida's point of view, the whole Nekuda, that's Ratzna Eldinim will learn and verstehen. There was not discussing. There's no mitzad the Hergesh Yechida. The tfis of Chabad is going to be different. The Rebbe speaking of renegade to life, but that's even when a person is being osak in his bananus, will have a different Hergesh. It's not that in that azevot mitzad b'chinas Chabad itself, mitzad that darge seichel has some type of value. Mitzad the fact the Yechida is Meir. So even when he's learning and understanding, it's not that learning and understanding is an inyan. That's the kavanas atzmas, a different inyan. But yeah, there's numbers and a bisschen weiter.
So question, we said, beer pixels of Medani that in Shama, not like with Tami and Shama, right?
That there's a kesher to lakus, that there's an akudas a kesher to lakus which cannot be nitman, that doesn't need any achana, that's the etzem akudas a kesher to atzmus.
So we say that the Chassidus is Meisef and Mavir, all the paradise.
It's nachabar.
It's not that the beer of Chassidus is Mavir.
The light, the Chassidus is mevar b'chinas Yechida Shabbatayra, which brings out the inyan the way they are from the level of Yechida. Yechida of Torah expresses the way Inyan Amar said the Yechida of the Eibishter and the way they relate to the Yechida of a Yid. That's Chassidus. They were saying, but once a Yid is connected to his P'nus Yechida, every level of his life is going to be different. All phases of his life is going to be different. P'nus Yechida Guf is not dealing with the Chaim Gashmi. There's no tzir of Gashmi is there. There's no tzir of a life living in this world. There's the way the Neshama is one with Atzmos. When you're in touch with that Inyan, and Chassidus also said, Etzem Hosef Chassidus is not a darget. Chassidus is the Gidei of Yechida. That's the ganze word. Yechida is the Mohos, the way the Mohos is not connected to any gather of tzir. A person living his life here, Lepaili is living a tzir life. You're not in the element of Yechida, so to speak. Yechida is beyond any the idea of elements, so it has an effect everywhere. It's another point. But the phases of reality is already, if you're not, Yechida is the Nekudas HaMohos before the idea of phases and of dargis. L'poil, since the Yechida has no tzir at all, it's going to affect also when you're in the realm of levels. It's going to have it's the mohus of everything. It's a different word. But what's Yechida Gufa? Yechida is not defined by dargis. So the etzem beard of Chassidus is the etzem kodah of Chassidus is being mevared the inyan the way the army said Yechida. So the etzem mohus of Chassidus is ain't soft that I said before. And kalbush achlim v'achleif. The levushim is not. Its inyani is not tzir. But since inyani is the ain't soft, the way the ain't soft is not defined by anything. So it can't negate tzir. So Mela, it's going to bring a chayis in every phase of reality. It's going to make a different chayis. It's not shelo. Here that was bringing out the way it is in Torah. The Mohos of Chassidus Gufer brings out the way it's one with Atzmos. The Metzias has no pagam. And Metzias can't be pagam. Nothing can be a stira for it. So that's, you're dealing with an akudah which is mufshit. Nothing could be a stira to it. And then, what's the ashpa of this Indian when you're discussing yepratim? You're discussing a person, what's his attitude towards his life. So, B'shas Chassidus brings out the Etzem Mahos. The Etzem Mahos doesn't only enrich you in the realm of your Mahos, it enriches your attitude towards everything. When you speak about Nigla, that as someone learns halach in Basar B'cholov, it's not going to make his whole yachas to life different. It's not going to make his whole Mahos different. You know that there's a musik a bit of It's not going to change the way you relate to the world. That's a certain specific information that you picked up. Yid werd miyuchat mit ein Sof through Torah. But I'm saying begoli. I'm shaking the Rebbe saying Chassidus connects the Yites Pnimius to the Mahos, to Yechida. So this since Yechida is an Ini which is higher than Tzir, higher than Prat, so the Etzem Mahos is higher than Prat. But when this Mahos is Meir, it affects every level of Prat, every Darga. It's not going to have a limited effect. It's going to have an effect on everything. The Rebbe is not saying and this is in this Chilek HaRem is very interesting. What the Rebbe brings up. It says Kamesha b'Chilek HaPshat. You have to remember the background. The Rebbe is saying here that L'Asid Lavi, which is going to be the Izgalus of what Chassidus is, of this Chayis Chodesh from Chinas Eichida. So it's not going to negate the Mitzias Avot. The Rambam says Elon Kaman Hageneik. It's not. Nothing's going to be negated because on one hand the etzem is beyond everything. Le'idach, it's not in the tzir of being beyond. It's beyond it. B'meila, it's going to enrich everything, and the shadish of everything is in Torah. So we're going to see how Chassidus affected Torah, and from them Zetman Visav Zen L'Asad how the world's going to be, because everything stems from Torah. It's Kamesha b'Chilek HaPshat. Shemay Da'ani. Ein Chassidus mesifa eit pirush. Neisiv ala pirush HaPashat. We're not changing the pshat. And even more, according to the Friedrich Rebbe's word, we're not changing the literal meaning of Medan. In Kabbalah, we're changing the meaning. Kabbalah, we're saying that the Kol Medani is Chveis Melechai V'Kayim. In Chassidus, we're saying that Medani means that you thank to Meibishtin. We're saying, but you're thanking, in a thank you is expressed a certain relation to the one that you're thanking. And that relation is beyond Tumah. That relation expresses Yechidah Shabbanevish. But we're not negating the Pashta Pshat. And also the Chayes that Chassidus gives. Shegam b'Chassidus Pirush Medani kipshutai hu yidash azat lamai ela shemavhira meira pirush za'atzmei. It's get a different lichtigkeit in this pshat. The Adgashasi mai nishmasi chayis shel Yudi va'mai yedasi. Yeah. Kenu b'chilik haremes. I'm going to get weiter. There's it's charayin trachen the Asius the starke Werte. What's the pshat that it gives a chayes get a lebdigkeit? Okay. Kenu b'chilik haremes. Hadrush v'aseish medani shachsidus meiro mavhiras haperushim eila atzmem. Not being shayel them, but it gives a different lichtigkeit and a different clarity in these perushim. We'll see in the chilik haremes. You see here you bring how Chassidus brings a clarkite in the pshat the way it is up hiremes. Let me say. Haremes shebachzars and what's the pshat of hiremes? That the Yid wakes up in the morning. So since Shina is echad neshishim b'misa, so a Yid waking up in the morning reminds him of Tchias HaMeisim. So as Tchias HaMeisim, you have to believe the Eibusha is going to one day make resurrection of the dead. But that's a weite Sache. Yid wächst doch in the free. It reminds him that the same way he woke up from his sleep, one day there'll be Tchias HaMeisim. So the Rebbe says, Haremes shebachzaras and sham ba'beker Tchias HaMeisim, b'li abir shel Chassidus, hu remes rachig b'yesh l'chora. Zer a weite Remes. What's the comparison between a person waking up in the morning to Tchias HaMeisim lost love? It's a nice little hint. I mean, Mechazik Yid in the Munah, we use it as a hint for us, but l'chora it's it says, even if it was b'kamos, let's say, v'lei misa mamash, even if you would say it, we're not dealing with kamos, that it's a 60th of death, it doesn't mean that it's a 60th in echos. Shishim, echad shishim misa is not that they hear you only sleeping for 12 hours, and achar misa, it's verteisen tiyar. It's a whole different echos of the siluk and neshama from the guf. Sleeping is one target. It's not a full siluk. I mean, the neshama is in touch with the guf. It's echad neshishim from the siluk and neshama me'aguf la'achri misa. But in echos, it's echad neshishim. A 60th be'echos is a big richuk. That's the einzah. This is more than that. Harikol achidish v'azar neshama la'achar shino hurak be'kisha neshama be'guf. A basic point that when a person, Tchias HaMeisim, it's not the pshat that when a person goes to sleep, his body stays fully intact. And the neshama also stays in the same form. The neshama is still mitzad mahosa shayches to the guf. It's the whole seder. The neshama mitzad shayrish and neshama l'mayla is beyond any shayches to having a ashpa on guf. Neshama is a mahosa ruchnis. Mufshetas legam. The Torah says to go through the whole seder shlashalas from chinas chacham elad atzilis in order to be slavish and to relate, to identify with a guf. I can't say seder shlashalas. When a person goes to sleep, the neshama is in the same state of shayches to the guf. Elamai, there's a temporary. The neshama is a detachment there, but it's not that the neshama goes back to the way it is originally. That it's mafshit himself from a shaykhs to guf. Masheg al-achar misa, the neshama it becomes a different mahus. It loses its contact b'chlal to the whole tzir and metzias of Elam Hazeh. The neshama goes back to its It's al derech. Someone has an experience one day, and then 60, 70 years later. So now he's far from that experience. His life moved 1,000 times, and that relation that it had on him 50 years ago, he became a different person 50 years later. He has so many experiences that he's a totally different mohos than the way he was 60 years before, let's say. The neshama lachar misa, the neshama goes is not stam technically. There's a detachment of the body and the neshama darten, and the neshama stays the same. The neshama goes through a whole is nis'ala and misrachik more and more from shaychas telam hazim. So the first year the neshama still has a shaychas tevel, ganze say there's tashlis, but there's a whole shin in the mohos, and the guf is yes chayzer la'afre. The guf becomes eis mitzias. So it's not just that the siluk is less. The whole mohos of the neshama and guf is different inside misa and wake up in the morning. It says chidush v'asar neshama v'la'achar shin rak bekisha neshama v'guf. A chidush b'tchias hamesim is going to be in the guf of the neshama itself. Kaid matchi yishar me'aguf rak etzem luz bilvad. It means only the very core of the body stays. If you use a dogma, someone takes you burn something. So when you burn something, also you're being the Alter says in Tanya, you have the ashtikal eitz. So when you burn it, you go back to the most basic element of this mitzias. Its core mohos, the way it is, mitzad etzem mohos, mitzad etzem chaymer. The tzir of this nivra, its wetness goes into the smoke, and its solidness is burnt, goes into other. What's left? The etzem mohos chaymer without any additional qualities. So the guf is chayzer la'afri. It's not just theoretically. It's not a technical thing. The whole tzir came of the guf is nisra. What's left is the most mufshidika aspect, the etzem mohos guf, but no shaykhs to any tzir of the guf. Yeah, al derech when you understand when you burn something, no one's going to say penigla. It's considered panim chadashes ba'olakan, the afer, even though it's what's left over from this nivra itself, but it's not. It's considered a whole new entity. The afer legabi the mitzias where it came from. Even though the afer has some yachas to the lachar misa, the guf is chayzer lekadmusa. I'm saying to the way it is in its most raw state. The etzem luz. Etzem luz is the mohusa core, the core of the guf, without any additional tzir. That's shalei be'erach klal. Etzem luz bilvad. Umizem muven shgam b'neshmase. Shaneshama v'agufim bechlal be'erach shaychaz elazeh yeshine ikri. The neshama loses its whole contact with the whole tzir of the guf, and it goes back to its very mohus, the mohusei atzmi. Al derech, like the guf goes back to mohusei atzmi, which is this etzem luz, which is a whole different nature than the rest of the body. So al derech, the etzem neshama goes back to its etzem mohus mamish, no shaychus to tzir at all. So bisman atchiyah yibana me etzem ze guf shalim. That's you take for the ashes and ufbein from them a whole tree. That's will be a panim chadashes mamish. Guf shal al derech ze v'gam anashama taver derech kama inyanim ad shetibana v'dikonis begufe. So mele haremesh v'alzars anashama d'chiyas hamesim were rak simin baum. There's no real comparison. It's an andere Sachen ganzen. Taking two things and that had a break from each other temporarily and bringing them back, or rebuilding something. I was saying, first of all, even mitzad the connection is echel mishishim from the connection. It's not, here not there's mesim is not about connecting. It's about rebuilding a person. It's gevarn eis mensch. It's nicht like a mensch. There's etzem luz. There's no metzias of a guf. So you have to rebuild the body. It's not about connecting with. What's the dimin hazar and sham baker to rebuilding a guf? You're being mahava guf mechadash. You're making a new person. Was the gestorben an aye mensch. His neshama became a different mohos and his guf, or just connecting two parts of the same thing. The dimin between putting together a puzzle and creating a puzzle for the mechadash. What's the dimin b'chol? That's the shayla. So, but there is a Chassidus Muvayres. They almost bekannt with their word. What the Rebbe says here, the interessante Sache. The Rebbe says here that by Mitzad Inyan, Mitzad Chassidus, you see later, the Rebbe first gives the beer. That by Chassidus, the mohos of a person waking up in the morning is exactly the same mohos as Tchias HaMesim. It's not a different mohos. The same Tchias HaMesim is as Havos HaGuf and as Havos HaNeshama. Al-Deraz waking up every morning is a Ishavas Chodesh. Let's get into it. So it's like this. Every morning when the person wakes up, the Chiddush is laid like Bekishra Neshama V'Aguf, Elegam B'Aguf Neshama Atzmon. Shelchein Omru Shebachol Beker Nasa Od Neberi Chadash. Allah state, or one of the time from Tzil Sadaim, because the person becomes a new person every day. So Parshat Dvarim B'ri Chadash means not there's Anaya mentioned the Lashon is the Lashon in Gemara B'ri Chadash. Nasa B'ri Chadash. But the Parshat Dvarim is that he's refreshed in the morning. person goes to sleep eisgewebt, and he wakes up a fresh new person. It's not literally a new person. The selbe Mensch von Nachten. Right away, the same machshavas fall in the morning, but he's refreshed. But the Rebbe touches it that Pichsidis, mitzad muhusa inyan, it's a new metzias every day. So that's the first thing the word that was like this. Ki b'chol rega v'rega meshavas kol abriya michodesh mamish k'mei b'ma'aseh bereshis. So what's the Pashas the Gevart? Pashas is Al Teres says in Tanya. Al Teres is Baal Shem Tov sagt that as they without the Baal Shem Tov versteht when the Eibush created the world the B'Sheishis mei bereshis, and from then the world exists like a Uman Machta Keli. The Uman made it. Once it was made, the Keli independently exists. It stands. Al Teres the Eibush had the Shafen developed a part taste in the Yarsiri, and the Eibush made it, and once it was made, it exists. The Baal Shem Tov says no. The fact that the Nivra exists is constantly independent from the fact that the Eibush is being mahabit, and the Dvaravai would stop creating it. What is nice? So it's not that the world is created once and now it exists as a result of the fact that it was made. It's not that 1 o'clock was made and therefore 101 it continues to exist. But the Eibush created it. The fact that it exists now is because he's creating it now, not because it existed a second earlier. The Nivra is constantly dependent on the Dvaravai being mahabit. And the Eibush started the mashal of Zikas Even mashal. That you say, the minute the Kayach Hayad leaves the stone falls. So the fact that the stone is flying, that's because every second the Kayach Hayad is pushing the stone. So al derech zeh, the world mitzad atzma is ayin ve'efes. Every instant, the fact that it exists is because the Eibishter is being mahabit. So what's that stone? So it doesn't do waking up in the morning. Then the same as Havas Michodesh Ma'ayin Liyesh happens every single second, not just Yesh Bereshis. So how is that a beer for how does that explain how Azar Hashem Babaker is a good remes for Tchias HaMesim? Then every single second the world's must have a Ma'ayin Liyesh. So maybe every second it should be a chizuk for Tchias HaMesim. So as in the brackets, Shel Mikarmel Kem der Mezes Tchias HaMesim Be'achzor Hashem Babaker Davke Ki Bitte V'Yizgalas Achidah Shel Abriya Shem Havas Tom Ma'ayin Liyesh Hu B'chol Baker Davke. I'm saying the Alter Zak Tazam. There brings in the order 99. This is the order here, the order 99. It says look at the Torah Achri. There he brings that the Mechadish Tu B'Chol Yimtod Ma'aser Bereshis. That Eibush is Mechadish Rod Ma'ayin HaMuchlet. It says Ach Ein Nimtza Moshel Komayu with the Gemasi Lamata Klal Laharis B'Chush. Rak Efes Katzeu Sheb'Chol Yom Meir Mecheshach Halayla V'Ariyuk Me'esh Ma'ayin. It says that everything has come upon him that there's a klal that the Ratzon Elyon was that all the Inyanim of Elokus should and the Nevrayim should have a yediyah in the Eibishter. In order for the Nevrayim to have a yediyah in the Eibishter, so the Eibishter B'Shafin developed in a way that he put into the world Kaviyachol the chesed of the Eibishter is expressed is Malubish in Mayim. The fact that Mayim is Yered Mikavayel and Nomoch, so that's a Teitzah of the Slapshas of Midas HaChesed. So since the Eibishter wanted that the Nevrayim should have a yediyah in him, so the Eibishter is invested in the tchunas of Bria in Yanim, which show a person when they get to Yanim L'mayla. There's many. So the shaila is the Eibishter is mahav the world ma'ayin liyesh mamish. So the Rebbe says so the kavanah al yeni is that all the Yanim L'mayla there should be yediyas gadol sabera by the Nevrayim, and therefore there's mishalim involved for Yanim and Elokus. Why is there mishalim? Because the Eibishter created the world in a way that his traits kaviyachol are expressed in the Tchunas Abriya. In order for us to, the Yana Deida and the Briya are neveya from that Inyan Elokus. In order for the Nivra to have a yediyah in that Inyan Lamayla. So the Eibishter's Midas HaChesed is the trait Kaviyachol of Chesed of Elokus was nishtalshal as a Tchuna of Mayim involved. You see the Tchuna of Mayim, so that's the mashal through that a Nivra could have a yediyah. The fact that Eibishter is mashpia on Mayim Lamada. The case of it. The Inyan of Havas Yesh Ma'ayin, so the Kavanah Al Yeni is that Ali Nyan of Nolakush should have the Nivra should know of. But the problem is there's no way. So Al Rebbe says that there can't be any mashal for the Inyan of Havas Yesh Ma'ayin because the Metzias Abriya only begins once it exists. The Ayin, the fact that it's the Maiver from Ayin to Yesh, the fact that the creation from nothing to something that can't be expressed in the something. The Nivra Welt begins in existence. There's a world. The Maiver from Ayin to Yesh, that can't reflect within the Metzias itself. The Metzias can only reflect things that exist. But it's Maiver Ma'ayin Liyesh, das kann sich Shtarize geben involved. When the state of Ayin, there's no world. The world begins when you create it. So how could there be that the Welt should express and should contain within itself the inyan of Yesh Mayim? And the Kavanah is that all inyan of Nemaila should be expressed in the Bria. But how could the fact that the Metzias is Mischadish Ma'ayin Liyesh, how could that be reflected in Welt? If Ayin is before the thing exists, when there's nothing. And the Yesh is after the fact of it. You can't have the mashal, you can't have a mashal for the Maiver Ma'ayin Liyesh. So the Alter Rebbe says, Ein nimtza mashal kol Maiver v'digmasi lamata klal, leharis b'chosh. But the Alter Rebbe says, Rak efes katzeu, means the Tzeddah gewisser Zach in Welt, which is a mashal for Yesh Mayim. And what is that? That every morning, the break of dawn, the Shebachol Yom Meir Mecheshich Halayla, is Kamei Yesh Mayim Mamish. Physically, the world gets dark by night, things slow down by night, it gets quiet. There's a shinui in the Metzias Halayla. A certain weakness, let's say, in the flourishing of the world. So schwacher. And by day, there's a schachas involved. Meir Mecheshich Halayla. The earth is Meir Mechadash, and there's a new life that begins. So b'chitzaynis, if say when you get that person, b'chitzaynis, a person is going to say he went to sleep, he was tired, and he woke up, he's fresh. It's not nothing to do with Yesh Ma'ayin. The Alter Rebbe says that's be'etzem the kavanah yena is that all inyanim l'mayla should express themselves in the bria. Since the Eibush the keich al hais havos lahavas Yesh Ma'ayin, the kavanah yena is that should also be expressed in the bria. L'poyel, there is no way for this inyan to be expressed in its fullest extent. You can't have Yesh Ma'ayin being expressed in the bria in the fullest extent. B'chinas chesed is a metzias. So that could be expressed in Elam Hazah of Mayim being Yer L'makim Goy. It's a Metzias. His Havas Yesh Ma'ayin, the fact that it goes from Ayin Liyesh, that can't be expressed in the Metzias, because the Metzias is after the fact. But the Kavanah is that Al Inyan L'mayla should be expressed in Welt. So Alter Rebbe said that this Efes Ketzeyu of this Inyan is also invested in the Bria. The fact that the Seder Bria is in a way that by night things get weak, and there's a the Nivraim, all the B'chinas Shabbalim are in a state of Shino by night. Things, I don't know exactly how it works, but Alter Rebbe speaks when they get to Cheshach and but there's a siluk of the functionality of things by night, and then they restart in the morning. So B'chitzayni it's from weakness or from tiredness to freshness. But Pnimi is that the tiredness is an expression of the fact that the Metzias Mitzadatzim is Ayin V'efes. And the freshness is that the Eibush is Mahava, the Yesh Mayim. Means this inner is how is the Eibush, the Kavanah was that it should express itself in the Bria, like everything else. Not something that Torah says. The Bria itself, in order for the Nivra to be the Indian, so the Eibush are invested in the Bria. But this Indian, this Havas Yesh Ma'ayin can't be expressed fully, its full scope. So it's expressed, Vifel the Nivra can handle it. Means the Nivra every night becomes an Ayin. It's Meir the fact that Be'etzim it's an Ayin. How is it Meir in the Nivra the Be'etzim it's an Ayin? That it gets weak every night. The fact that it gets weak is it's because the Nivra Be'etzim is not a Metzias. Be'etzim is an Ayin Ve'efes. In order for him to experience the fact that Be'etzim is an Ayin, he can't experience it more than the sense that he gets weak every night. And then to experience the fact that Eibush creates him Mechadash, so he adds him a new freshness. But b'mehus, this inyan of at night things slowing down and the morning being a chadash, this inyan is an expression of this Havas Yesh Ma'ayin. Is this inyan being expressed in the world? As if you versteht that the fact that Mayim Yardim Mikavei Lenamach with Pnimi Yusei, it's Chesed Atzilis, is the Eibush's Chesed being expressed in the world in order for you to have an Yidin Elokus. So what's the Pchayis of Mayim? The Pchayis of Mayim is Chesed Atzilis. Al derech zeh, the fact that the Nivra becomes weak is an expression of the fact that the Nivra is an Ayin. B'mhus, this it's getting weak is a bitay to the fact that Be'etzim has no mitzvahs. And the fact that it's refreshed every morning is an expression of the fact that the Eibush creates it me'ayin liyesh. A person can't refresh himself. That's get shlofen and he's refreshed. How does that happen with Amol? So that's an expression of the fact that the Eibush is Mahava Yesh Ma'ayin. But the etzem in of Havas Yesh Ma'ayin, that's the pnimius of this phenomenon. Just it can't be expressed more than in weakness and in freshness. So it's not that waking up in the morning is waking up in the morning. The fact that there is such a system of going to sleep, echad mishishim b'misa, because the pnimius, the inyan of shina, is an expression of the fact that the nivra be'etzem is ayin ve'efes. How could a person be mitziyusei experience the fact that he's ayin ve'efes is the fact that he loses his keiches, he gets tired and he falls asleep. That's an expression of the fact that he's ayin ve'efes mamish. And the fact that he wakes up is an expression of the fact that Eibush is Mahavad the Eilam. Ma'ayin liyesh mamish. So b'mihusa inyan, every morning is a bitui of this Havas Yishma'ayin mamish. He becomes a Bria Chadash every morning. B'chol is every second is Havas Yishma'ayin, but the Eibush, the fact that you have a seder of Shina and Kima, that's where the Eibush was you say invested this in of a Havas Yishma'ayin. It's very you look at the Torah about Mish Gezana as a Zach, but this is the way the Rebbe touches it. You see the Lashon in the Pnim. He says, "B'chol rega v'rega meshavet." The Rebbe is using this as a biur why waking up every morning is exactly the same mahos as Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim is Havas Yishma'ayin mamish. Every morning is Havas Yishma'ayin mamish. Mitzad mahos ein.
What does that have to do with the getting dark and getting light?
The Rebbe says it there. Because getting dark is a certain. Saying you don't see things. Things are not open the way they are regularly. Things don't function the way they are regularly. I'm saying the bitui klali that the world stops from its system. Things aren't functioning regular. That it becomes dark, and there's no regular functionality. There's a weakness in the Eilam. But there's a certain the color of things and the nature, the character of things. Like a person gets weak, so the world goes through such a seder. The fact that why the Eibush eingestellt as Amasar Seder Taka, that's an expression of the fact that Nivra Be'etzem is Ayin. The fact that it's Ayin, that's Meir in Mitzias. In different Mishon like that, the Rebbe brought always the pasuk says that there's Arim B'tzuris B'Shamayim. That walls went all the way to Shemayim. The Gemara in Talmud, the Rabbi says that the pasuk sometimes speaks divrei guzma, divrei avai. It's Arim serves to Shemayim. It's not Shayach Shlashim Mitzias. It should be a wall till Shemayim. So the pasuk speaks divrei lashon Torah is Shloshim Mekayim. Torah uses a lashon guzma. The Shabbos in the Torah is Megat Torah is Torah Semes. The Eibush is exaggerated. So the Rabbi always brings the Rameh Pano says that it's not. You had certain cities that their gvura, the takeoff of their walls, was unproportionate to the regular gvura of other states. They had unproportionate gvura. What's the reason for it? Be'etzem, the gvura was, there's the Eibusher's gvura, and then there is gvura, you have the world's gvura, a nivra's gvura. The Eibusher's gvura is bli gvul. These Ardim, the Ardim that in Eretz Yisrael, so it was the gvura wasn't a regular human gvura. It was a getliche gvura which expressed itself in these physical worlds. So the getliche gvura mitzadat, the Eibusher's gvura mitzadat is bli gvul. That can't be nizbata in Elam Hazeh. The Eibusher's bli gvul. So the gvura which they had in this city stemmed from the Eibusher's gvura. It was a revelation of his gvura. So mitvas bein chareis that is his gvura, that it was unproportionate to the gvura of Welt. Ushalei be'erech. Mitzad Mahusa, he was Arim Suras B'Shamayim. It was a himmeldika type of starkate. With what was it? With practically, how did the getliche gvura, the getliche walls there, how are they expressed? That it was unproportionate to regular walls. So you have certain things that lepayel and Elam Hazeh is saying over here. The kavanah yena is that even the inyan of yesh ma'ayin should express itself in the nivra. The inyan that the Eibush has mahava yesh ma'ayin muchlit, that shouldn't stay only in a lakus. In order for the nivra to have it should be expressed in the Mitzias and Nivra. Lepayel, yesh ma'ayin can't be expressed fully in the Nivra. It's not, because the Nivra is a Mitzias. So it can't experience the fact that it's ayin mamish. So, but the kavanah yen is that this inyan should also be meir. So the fact that the world functions in a way that it gets weaker, mitzad geder abriya v'tosh gedav zayin azazach. Means if the world be'etzem is a Mitzias, why does it have an akudah in it that it loses its takeoff every couple of hours? That the minute it functions a little bit, it loses its takeoff. So as you look at it, he loses his takeoff. It's not that it loses its very existence, it loses its strength. But the pnimius, the losing its strength is the maximum how much is able to be expressed. The fact that the be'etzem is an ayin. So misat mahusa inyan, it's ayin ve'efes mamish. The mahus of this process of getting tired is a reflection of the fact that the nivra be'etzem is ayin, or it's never from the tchunas ha'ayin that the nivra has. So the fact that the nivra is a ayin is expressed within the Mitzias HaNivra. How could the nivra experience its ayin? In the fact that it gets weak, that it loses its kayach. And how could he experience the fact that the Eibusher gives it its Metzias, that every morning he's mekabel his freshness from the Eibusher. Mer ken sich verstehen. But it's not that the Inyan is the Inyan of waking up and going to sleep. The Inyan, mitzad atzmei, the Inyan ideally is yesh ma'ayin mamish. The Inyan, the way it is expressed in this experience, which cannot be more, is getting tired and waking up. That's the... So mitzad amhusa Inyan, waking up in the morning, is tchias ha'meis mamish. Because the night is an expression of the fact that the nivra is ayin. The fact that it's echad mishishim is because technically ken zich verstehen mer. The Eibusher wants that a neshama beguf should experience the fact that he's a Savas Yesh Mayim. Should experience it. It should be in his Metzias, the fact, in his Tchunis, that he's Mesava Yesh Mayim. In his Tchunis, Ken Zech Yishtar Ayin Mamish. The only way Ayin could be expressed in his Tchuna is weakness. So that weakness and that sleeping is the expression that he's P'nes Ayin Mamish. So Tchis HaMesim, wake up in the morning, is the same host. So this is already mitzad the beer that Chassidus gives in the Eden of his Havas Yesh Ma'ayin Mamish. So das is mevair. It's not the Friedrich Rebbe's beer of Medani. That Rebbe's going to speak weiter. But here the Rebbe is saying, Chassidus, the beer of Chassidus Havas Yesh Ma'ayin, get a beer in the Pirush al Derech HaRemes. Now the Rebbe says Nachapart. This is an order for a Yid. What's the Remes? The Rebbe explains how the Rebbe gave a different Havana now to the Remes. So the beer of Chassidus, so the Remes is it's in Amiti. It's not just Tam, we found it's a Dugma Ba'am. I mentioned it's a Simen Ba'am, a reminder us of our waking up in the morning. It's because Mitzad Amita Se'inyan, it's in of Yeshmayim. It's in of Chies HaMesim. Mitzad Amita Se'inyan. And by Melam Mitzad Amita Se'inyan, there's a cash between waking up in the morning and Chies HaMesim. That's the Emes. But then now the Rebbe said, weiter, in order for a Yid, what's the Nakuda of the Pirush al Piremes? That B'shas Yid wakes up in the morning, it's mechazik is amuna in Chies HaMesim. So the Rebbe says, Snish Genug the beer from Chassidus, that a Yid should see in his waking up in the morning a chizuk to Chies HaMesim comes dafka mitzad the hergish of Chassidus, mitzad the hergish of Yechidah. It could be a nice beer. The Rebbe is mevayer here that the Yeshma'ayin is that the waking up in the morning is an expression to the fact that Yesh doesn't have a Yeshma'ayin, but that the Yid should wake up in the morning and feel in it. You should sense that it's an expression of a Savis Yeshma'ayin, and the mele see in it Chies HaMesim is dafka mitzad the hergish of Yechidah. We soll lernen der Wort. See the Elam will zulegen. Es ist nicht kein Post der Wort Eichet. Der ist ein sehr starker Wort. Okay, maybe we'll do it instead, or we'll do it next time. Ich will nicht mehr sein zu viel, but these are some points was is good to reinkarben. This is also, so this is already another Nekuda. The etzem biur that the Remes Amit the Rebbe Mevar given. But the pearl, the Nekuda of the Remes of Chies HaMesim of Medani is that a Yid zal have a chizik in his amuna when he wakes up in the morning. When he wakes up in the morning, he should be margish that this is Chies HaMesim. So good, in mevayer the whole beer, but that a person should feel like this is that Indian. So to have a hergish, that waking up in the morning is really an expression of Savas Yeshma'ayin Mamish. That's dafke mitzad Chines Eichid. There's going to be masber why. Is mitzad Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chaya, you can't see in waking up in the morning a reflection of Yeshma'ayin. The truth is that it is a reflection of Yeshma'ayin. But to notice, to sense that the fact that you're tired is an expression of the fact that be'etzem the nivra is ayin, and the fact that he's waking up be'etzem it's this havos of the nivra. It's an expression of the Eibush being mahavi yeshmayin. That's dafka mitzad yichidim. Mitzad yichidim, you can have a hergish that going not stam a theoretical is an abstract idea that going to sleep is an expression of the ayin. He should see in the process of getting tired that it's his galus, or it's a bitoy that Rebbe's lashon here. It's a bit of his galus of the fact that nivra be'etzem is an ayin. That's definitely the hergish chassidus. That we'll see the beer. Good mentions and